Hey everybody, my name is James. I wanted to start off by saying that I am not an expert beekeeper. I'm not an expert woodworker. I started beekeeping about 7 years ago and fell in love with it, and finally learned how to start building some of my own hives. And then I learned about swarm trapping about 3 years ago by accident and fell in love with that. And I've had a few people ask me how I do my boxes. So this video is basically just me putting together some really cheap, because I use a lot of recycled wood. This is a video of me putting together swarm traps. You can do it for pretty cheap, especially if you're frugal and drive around to places where they're building houses and they have scrap piles. You can pick up lumber really good. I mean, it's if you're paying nothing for it, I'd say that's pretty good. Anyway, this is my first go at a video. We'll see how it turns out. I hope it helps somebody. And so what I've done is I've taken, I guess you'd call this 1/4 inch OSB, and I have cut them into strips, as many strips as I can get, that are 15 5/8 of an inch wide. And now I'm about to cut it down, about to cut the 15 5/8 and cut it at 19.5 inches to get a sidewall. Okay, so I've cut each piece of that OSB down to, there's about 30, I think there's 32 pieces here. So that will be my sidewalls on my traps. So I've cut down enough to make 16 traps. These are just the sidewalls for 16 traps. They are 19.5 by 15 5/8 and a 1/4 inch OSB. I'll get back with you. Okay, like I said, I'm a big fan of just recycling wood and going to house buildings and looking through their pile. And I got lucky. One day I found a bunch of pieces of this. Looks like maybe a 1/2 inch of plywood they'd been using for the backing of kitchen cabinets, kitchen shelves. I get kitchen cabinets, and I'm going to use these, cut them down for the front panel, back panel, and the bottom panel of the swarm trap. I'm going to cut them at 10 inches wide, and then I'll measure the height of them in just a minute. Okay, so I've got all my parts cut for the box. This is not the lid, and I went ahead and marked them. So your side pieces, and this is, again, this is about a 7/16, or I guess some places may call it a 1/2 inch OSB press board. I got it because it's free. I got it off of lots that were building houses. I would not house bees in these for long term, just simply because I guess the glue, I don't know. But I don't mind catching swarms in them, because I'm going to remove the swarms and put them in permanent boxes. But anyway, here's the sides. The sides are OSB. The bottom board is just a basic, it's like the smallest plywood I could get. It's a 1/4 inch, and to be honest with you, got this for free also. Got it at a place that was building houses. So this is how this is going to go. Let me see if I can hold this camera, this phone, and put this together. But this sideboard is going to go on top of the bottom board. So let me just sit there right there on top of the bottom board, like so. And then your front and your back entrance will also, I'm sorry, will not also, but will sit down flush with the bottom board. So basically what you've got is, let me see if I can get this hold like this. Basically what you've got is, you've got your sideboard sits on top of your bottom board, and your front and your back board will bunt up against the bottom board. So maybe that makes sense. I'll go ahead and get one put together, and then I'll show you what it looks like. What I'm doing now is I'm putting some frame rest on the front and the back boards. I have cut 9 inch. Of course, it's going to slide a little bit. I've just got it glued right now. I've cut them 9 inches long, and they're about 7/16, a 1/2 inch deep. Let me get these put on, and then I'll video again. So this is what we're looking at so far. This would be a obviously half of it put together, and I really haven't got it glued or nailed. But once again, the side is sitting on top of the bottom board. You can see the measurements there. It's 19.5 across, 15 5/8 of an inch up and down, and it sits on top of the bottom board. The bottom board is 19.5 deep, 10 inches across. The front and the backboard, in this case it's the backboard, is 10 inches across and 16 inches top to bottom. And then I had put a 9-inch frame holder on top, just glue and some nails, and I put it 5/8 of an inch down from the top. I'm 100% sure this is not OSHA approved. How I'm going to put an entrance into this, I got the wrong one. How I'm going to put an entrance into this front board, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the saw on and kind of put it down on there a couple of times. I know a lot of people will cringe at the danger or the stupidity of me doing it this way, but that's basically the only way I've got to do it right now, and so far I haven't lost a limb. Please don't do anything that's dangerous just because I am, but anyway. Alright, there we go. There's the entrance. I made it fairly narrow just so the bees don't have to worry about a bunch of other bigger hornets or wasps or mice or whatever. Like I said, I'm 100% sure there's probably a better way of doing that. A safer way, but that's just the way I know how to do it right now. This is about 2 inches off the bottom, and I just make a long, narrow entrance for them to get in. If you don't like it that long, then just don't cut it that big. Now I'm going to put the bottom board, or at least the sideboard, onto the bottom board. I'm a huge advocate of using screws, but when you're using materials that are this thin, I've just got to where I'm using these smaller nails right now and a generous amount of glue, and I use Elmer's wood glue. I'm not an advocate, it don't work there, that's just what I use. So let me get this put together. Just a little update on where I'm at. I've got the back and the front panels, side and bottom, in place. I'm about to put on the last, or actually the only other side there is to it, and then it will be a boxed. I don't know if I said this earlier in the video, I'm more of a fan of screws, but with using such thin plywood, I'm using these little nails right now. But anyway, I'll get back to the video. So here's the finished box. There's the front, of course there's the entrance. Here's what you look at. Now I will give a small correction on the frame rest. After I've done it, the frame will sit on there, but it gives a lot of room. So if I were you, I would make the frame rest about 5/8 of an inch thick. That way everything fits kind of snugly. This is the first time I've used a 1/4 inch plywood. And so make the frame rest about 5/8 of an inch thick. This is, I can't even remember what I did, but I know it's not 5/8 of an inch. So 5/8 of an inch thick on the frame rest. Now I'm going to work on the top. So I built the frame for the top using 3/4 inch strips. They're about 2 inches in width. And there's really no set measurement that you need to do. Just make sure that you build this large enough, to go over top. I'm about to cut a piece of plywood to go on top of this, so it will sit down on top of the swarm trap, and then we're done, except for putting a good coat of exterior paint, 1 or 2 coats of exterior paint. I'll show you the finished product with some frames in it in just a minute. Connected. Again, I'm using free plywood. This is just 1/4 inch plywood because of the lightness of it. I have built my frame for the top, and I'm going to lay it on here and just basically use a pencil, mark off each side and cut it accordingly. Glue it down, and I'm done. So real quick, this is pretty much how I hang mine. I usually use a strap, but at the time I didn't have a strap with me. You can actually have this just sitting on something. I've had a couple of these just sitting on the back of my building porch and had swarms move in. If you're wanting to hang them in other places, you can build a little arm like this. and just put a nail on top of the post or the tree, ever how high you want to go, and then just hang it on there. There's no real directions on how to build that thing. It's just you know, you get it attached to the swarm trap, drill a hole up there where you can put a nail through it and hang it. And I'm always kind of picky. I use a level. I make sure it's level both you know, left and right, and then generally I will make sure that it is level front to back. All right, I'm done. It's about got dark on me, so hopefully you can see. I have finished the top, and like I said, there's no specific measurements. You just kind of build it to where to fit on top of the swarm trap. What you'll do is, if you use these dimensions, you should be able to put 6 frames in there. At least one of those frames needs to be something, some kind of old comb, something like that, because they really like the old dark comb. So if you got a frame of old dark comb, put that in the center, and then make sure, you learn from my mistake, and make sure you go ahead and put enough frames in there, because if you leave open space, when they get in there and house up, sometimes before you get to them, they can go ahead and start building comb on the top of the lid, and that gets to be a mess. Here's the lid. I will put this lid right here on top. That's basically what it looked like. Real quick, this is how I bake my hives. I put that dark comb frame in the middle. I take a sandwich bag with a Q-tip. I use this. Now, I know a lot of people use lemongrass oil, and that works just great too. I've never used it, but this is Swarm Commander. I do not work for the company. I'm not a paid salesman or whatever, but I've used this and had good luck with it. I usually use this, and I will spray 1 squirt of Swarm Commander on the end of the Q-tip. Then I'll place the Q-tip in the sandwich bag, cut out the little corner of the sandwich bag. So you've got a Q-tip with 1 squirt of Swarm Commander on it. You put that on the back top of the frames. Then you will put the top on. Place your swarm trap wherever you want to do it. If you place it high or low or whatever, they do say it does better higher. I had a little accident with a ladder one time, so I've kind of quit going so high. And after you get it placed and strapped down and in place, use your Swarm Commander or your lemongrass oil one more time, and just do 1 squirt right there at the entrance. And you may have to reapply that every 2 or 3 weeks. I will say that it is February the 12th, 2020, and I put out a swarm trap on the 9th here in Alabama. It's still fairly cold, and I've actually already had a scout bee. I saw this afternoon checking it out. So I'll take this swarm trap right here. I will build a few more of these, give them 1 or 2 good coats of exterior paint, and they're ready to go. The sooner the better. I can get them painted so I can get them dry so they'll quit smelling like wet paint. One other tidbit: if you're a new beekeeper, when you go to Walmart or Lowe's or Marvin's, wherever you go to the paint section, and they usually have a section called mist-tinted paint. A lot of times you can find some exterior paint and pay like half the price that it would normally cost you. It may not be the prettiest colors in the world, and you really don't want super bright for swarm traps, because you don't want people who are not beekeepers checking it out. Anyway, give that a try. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, post it in the questions below. This will be my first YouTube video. I'm sure 100% that I'm not an expert at this. I'm not an expert beekeeper, expert woodworker. I'm sure there are many ways you could do this differently and probably better. So I don't claim to know it at all. But please feel free to leave a comment if you'd like. Send me a question and I'll send it to you. I've had a lot of success in the past 2 or 3 years building them this way, and I hope that it helps you. Once again, any questions, just post them and I'll see if I can get back to them. Good luck swarm catching. Thank you for watching.